podcast and take this walk with me.
Welcome back to the Three Parallels podcast with your host, the brother Dr. Jason Branch, where we rediscover who we were, we embrace who we are, and we make room for who we're trying to become. I serve as an executive performance coach, and my job is to help you help yourself. How do I do that? Great question. It's helping you become the best version, meaning little you, current you, future you. We got to tap into all of those, and this show is how we tap in. And today's guest, I'm telling you, I got a shit starter. Okay, I'm just gonna be straight up. I got somebody in here for to start some stuff and to turn some tables over because this is what she does anyway. Now, let me give you a story. All right, as you've heard, I was in New Orleans, and being in New Orleans was a healing, transformational space and place for me. And I learned I wasn't the only one in the middle of a transition. And this particular person that I'm going to introduce you to, she had an opportunity to see me be me, meaning she was in my presentation and became a fan. And I became a fan of her. It was instant, it was immediate. And it was like, yo, what is this? Who is you? Where you at? What you doing? Where you going?
Mhm.
And it was just love. It was connection. It was energy. So who I'm talking about is no other than Nikki Curry. And Nikki is a blessing. Nikki is a godsend because Nikki has an energy. She has a passion to help, to serve, especially people of color related to the things that's in our basement, the place and space we don't usually go to. And her main topic that she connects with to help people with is related to the basement. One of the biggest boxes in the basement, in my humble opinion, is sex. Yes, indeed. Sex is one of the biggest boxes in the basement because everybody listening has a story related to sex. Come on. Even your origin story. Some of us knew when. Some of us knew where. No matter what, every human being is connected to this topic, and she has dove into this topic, and in my humble opinion, have mastered it by understanding herself. The topic, the experience is one thing, but mastery of self is how you do it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. No other than Nikki Curry. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. Oh, she sounds absolutely wonderful today.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. I'm with it. I'm with it. So we're gonna dive in. Again, I mentioned sex.
Yeah.
We talking about sex. And I'm
Yes.
curious, the listeners are curious, what is it that you do related to sex?
Yes, very much so. Well, I am a certified sexual educator. So that means I talk and think all things that are related to sexual wellness, not just your health and your actual body, but how you relate to it, how you think about it, even how you perform in it.
Mm,
And so communicating that back to individuals so they can have more embodied experiences and basically just have more pleasure. We all want better sex and we want more pleasure in our lives. So I
okay.
really dive into what there is in research and then also make it culturally grounding. So really talking to people that walk and talk and look the way that I do, because again, we're not often in those spaces where we have safe spaces that we can talk about this topic.
Okay, this is a whew, man. We already starting. Okay, we already started. Nikki, I'm so thankful for you here because you have an ability to talk about things that I can't talk about. I'm not trained. I'm not certified. I'm not aware, which is why you being on the show not only going to educate the listeners, but it's also going to educate me. And as I mentioned before, sex directly or indirectly impacts all of us. It's just a part of being human. And for me, you've humanized it. Your ability to
Yes.
just be you organically, authentically, and talk about topics that for many of us, we never had exposure to growing up. But we're in a place and space now where it doesn't matter your age, race, whoever you are, wherever you have this knowledge base and you're helping people understand themselves better sexually. So, if you could share with us, how did you get into this? What made you decide, hey, this is the arena I want to get into? Because you could have chose
Yeah.
anything, especially as a helping professional. You could have gone anywhere, but you chose to go here. We're curious to know what's the origin story?
Wow, that's a great question because I do get asked that quite often. And so, like you said, sex is a part of our everyday. It's who we are. But how I specifically got into the field of this, I'm also a clinical mental health counseling student. So, finishing along that pathway of the mental health counseling. And for me, it was very much working with clients already in a behavioral health setting. And sex always kind of came out. They just always it just kind of eased its way out, whether it was your environment that we might have been talking about, or experiences, or you were just more inquisitive and had that curiosity. And so as I was growing in this field of the on the clinical side, it was more of, okay, well, where are the people that look like me?
Mm,
Where are the black
mm.
and brown people? Where are the people that have the locks or whatever? But really, just I
Mhm,
started looking for that in my community and in my professional network. And I found that there were not a lot of us that was in this space. And
mhm,
so, yes, there are professionals that are in on the medical side of things. So you have physicians and specialists and in those areas, but not really trained to really have conversations that dealt around just sexuality and not always looking at it from a trauma lens. Because
mm,
oftentimes we hear it, especially in our communities, we hear it in a traumatic way. We talk about sex as a trauma instead of as pleasure. And
mm. And you,
there's no spectrum. There's no extreme. It's a spectrum.
okay, we got to dive into this because you already ready. All right. So to the
Yes.
listeners, get your notebook. Okay, we finna go to school. All right, we finna go to school. Get your notebook. Get ready because I don't know what's finna come out, but I know Nikki well enough to know something finna come out for somebody, and this is for somebody. So you mentioned okay, the umbrella. We're talking about sex.
Mhm.
Underneath the umbrella, you have a spectrum, and you mentioned trauma and pleasure, which are two opposite ends of the spectrum. If you could share with us both and what does those look like, especially with clients that you work with, or even culture and community that you're speaking on, because a lot of people may not even know. They talk about it, they live it, but may not even know. So if you could break that down, what's the difference and what does that look like?
Oh, absolutely. So oftentimes when we're talking about it from a trauma lens, that might have been a sexual assault. It might have been where you might have prematurely had sex before you were ready to, you were developmentally ready. And it oftentimes not just in a assault, it could be a physical or an emotional traumatic experience around sexuality. Even for, let's say, for an example, as a young woman getting her menses for the first time can be very traumatic in how it's handled, because the body is naturally supposed to go through things, such as a young male body maybe going through early wet dreams. That could be very traumatic for a person that's not handled properly. And the narratives that we build around that and the consent that can happen or not happen. So that's
Yeah.
one end of it
Okay.
versus pleasure is something that happens in everyday life. We can be stimulated through sensually through pleasure, and sexual stimulation can also lead to pleasure as well. So we think of them as being polar opposites when really there is a rainbow. There is that spectrum that can be in between that. And so it starts when we are young. It starts when we're in utero. So it starts before it's even imprinted and you come out of the womb that you have those imprints, and even thinking to a generational lens, that if we add that on top of that layer, then we're thinking about generationally, what were the experiences that our parents and our foreparents may have experienced that you may look up as you're an adult and say, I wonder why I like this.
That's so good. That's so good. I told y'all Nikki was coming. I told you she was coming, cooking already. So let's dive into it because I'm curious, especially I'll speak on my own lived experience because I know a lot of people can relate to this. You talked about the spectrum with trauma and the pleasure, and even developmentally, in my humble opinion, I'll speak for me, the trauma that I would say I've experienced as a man growing up, developing, because you mentioned generational and ancestral, or I brought up ancestral, but it's all connected. Me
Hmm.
learning about sexuality, me learning about sexual health, me learning about what it takes to bring a child into this world. I was taught and told, number one, don't bring no baby in this house. That was it. I was not taught how, I wasn't taught protect. I wasn't talking about that. It was just
Yeah.
a blanket statement, don't bring children in this house. That was it for me. No shade, no disrespect to my parents, but that's what to me was cultural. So I'm curious for from your perspective, what does that look like for many of us, and how do we live differently with the information that we were told? So the information that we were told is why we do what we do and who we are. But how do we overcome that? And what are some more healthy ways that we can have conversations about sexual health?
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, normalizing it, normalizing the conversation. That is paramount. So even if that might have not have been your forefront, that you might not have had those conversations around the talk, quote unquote, as you were growing up, normalizing the conversation as you get older. And to normalize conversation, you need the right language. So we got to
Mm,
use the right terms of our bodies. We can't keep
mm.
calling it the hoo-ha. The vajayjay and all of there's a whole gamut of terms and slang terms that have been brought down. So think about it. All of these things were brought down through stories, right?
Mm,
Through storytelling, what to
mhm.
do or what not to do, right?
Right.
Don't do
Uh-huh.
this, but they
Yes.
don't tell you what to do or
Yes.
how to handle certain things. So that's for first, using correct language, right? Instead
Hmm.
of saying pee, you urinate, defecate,
Hmm.
using correct terminology of the body and of the body's functions.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when we don't use the right terms or we don't know when something is awry or something does not feel quite right, we don't know how to specifically name it. And then we're not
Hmm.
getting the support that we need.
Yeah.
So that's
That's real.
first and foremost is
Hmm.
you got to use the right terms. You got to use it and normalize that conversation. So even with young children, you want to teach them very early, normalize it, have use the right terms when they're talking about their bodies and understand that as children grow and as we grow into adulthood, being able how the body works,
Mm.
touching yourself, touching in that way that may feel good because again, that sensation got to be able to learn that how that works and how to be able to use that forward. So again, we want to kind of teach around those contexts and be able to use explicit language when we do that. And so
Okay.
that's first and foremost, having those examples of that, even if we
Okay.
did not have them to begin with.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So curious, your perspective, what do you think the reason is that us, especially people of color, have this lived experience and we're not speaking based off of the correct terms or definitions? There's people listen to the show now, 40 plus, still saying hoo ha. So
Hmm.
what's the,
Exactly.
how did this happen? How did this happen that we're still in this place and space and not being able to use correct terminology even at this stage in our lives?
Oh, absolutely. Well, for us, many of us that, especially those of us that are of the African diaspora in the US, a lot of it came from slavery. So again, our bodies were not looked at as being autonomous and being ours, but we were property. So when
Mm,
you are somebody's property, you don't own you. You can't say what your body should and should do or what should and should not feel like. Then there's other narratives, such as we could go into them for days, such as church and religious upbringing. So there's a lot of church shame, church hurt
mhm. Yes.
around what that looks like, depending on, and again, that's for all um, facets. So not just one specific actual religion or not. There's multiple in that and what that looks like. And historically, as Black and brown bodies, we were told that we are not supposed to receive pleasure and you
Ooh,
had to
hold on.
be quiet.
Full stop. Hold on. Full stop, Nikki. Hold on. Full stop. Please, can you take a moment and dive into that? Because this is the reason I want to stop is because this is your norm. You do this all the time. But for a lot of
Mhm.
people listening, they've never heard this stuff publicly before, especially in a way that you're delivering. So this pleasure piece, could you talk more about that and what does that look like? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, actually, for us that are again in Black and brown and other communities as well, we were told that we're not supposed to have pleasure, that your body is only for reproduction and that's it. You make
Mm,
babies. You have
wow.
babies. So there's a
Wow.
lot of different narratives, patriarchal systems, a lot of older kind of narratives that sit within that. And so when you've been conditioned for that, and you've been taught that and it's been passed down, and you factor in again trauma, rape, you factor those pieces in. You factor in where grandmothers and aunties were getting married when they were 14, 13 years old, because again, you're of fertility and you are to be able to make babies, make more labor, then we're not really dealing with, hey, that's not something that's pleasurable when a young girl doesn't even understand what her body is going through. or with a
Wow.
young man is to continuously produce babies. So that's where those narratives come from. And so we have to really look at what are the cultural messages that we receive, not only just as a society, but even within our own cultures. What were things that we were, again, not told not to talk about? You brought up a really good point, like, hey, don't make babies, don't bring babies into this house. Okay,
Hmm.
that's one narrative. But again, it did not teach you about, well, what's pleasurable for me? What can I say yes to? Or what can I say no?
Mm.
And that's consent. So those are some other things to, really think about. And then there's a lot of myth and
Mm.
misconception
Yes,
that
indeed.
comes through those stories,
Yes, indeed.
And so we're not truly communicating what a pleasure language looks like. I call that pleasure literacy. And so we all have to develop a pleasure literacy, regardless of where you are in your sexual experience or your sensual experience. So
Woo.
that's something that is also very different, is that people don't understand there's a difference between sexual and sensual.
Woo, you preaching, you teaching, okay? You preaching and teaching. I got to go back to something because
Okay.
my belief, and this is mine, and I own it now. I stand on it. For me, everything goes back to slavery. For me, I don't care
Yeah.
what it is. And for me, what you just shared made it so plain the connection, the parallels between where we are right now and slavery, meaning as slaves, a lot of people of color being slaves like that, being property, being cattle, just being used and abused, you're not thinking about the human side of sexuality at all. So this kind of taps into many of us with our grandparents or great grandparents who may have had 10 children, 20 children, 15. The reason being it goes back to what we were introduced to, and
Hmm.
also not having the knowledge base about sexual health and choosing when to have children because we're not aware of it, contraceptives and everything else. So what you're sharing
Absolutely.
is so much, and to me, anybody listening can connect to it in some capacity. Again, it touches all of us. And I want to talk about a couple of things that you brought up. One, masturbation, because what I'm hearing you saying is like this is okay, but for many of us, we haven't been taught or told that. The pleasure literacy, if you can share more with us on that, and then the difference between sexual and sensual, because again, this is the norm for you, but for many of us, we haven't been taught or told this. So this may be the first time that people have an
Absolutely.
opportunity to hear the facts, the truth, a different narrative around sex. So please feel free, educate us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, when we explore our cultural messages, I'm always curious when I'm with clients to say, well, where did you hear that from? Share
Mm,
where you heard that from. And so many of our ideas around what sex looks like, it's again, these come from stories. They may be myths, they may be misconceptions as well. And so we learn through cultural stories, media, peers, all of those things. And most importantly, we also learn through silence. When
okay.
things arise that, again, may be traumatic, that's where you might even find sometimes incest, things of that nature. When you know that something inappropriate may be happening in silence, when we learn through silence, that also tells a story. So,
Mm,
one of the things is I always often find and start with clients is tell me your cultural stories. Where did you absorb this? And you didn't even realize that you did. So we
mhm,
start to really break down, how did you learn about sex? Did you learn through a book? Did you learn through what you saw on TV? Now, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
So there was a thing called HBO
Yes,
and
indeed.
HBO Max.
Yes,
And so
indeed.
at that time, you could find more erotic storytelling on these channels, and they were done after a certain time at night, and you had to
Hmm.
pay for that.
Okay. Okay.
Where if you fast forward, here we are in 2026, and it's right there in front of you within a lot of different spaces. You can go to YouTube, you can go to your social media, you can find all of these things. So it's more prominent that it's there, but you got to dig through it. It's like
Mhm,
building, I say it's also like building a salad, right?
mhm,
There's
mhm,
some things that you like on your salad that somebody else may not. And there's some things that you're like, hey, that can stay. I'm okay with that. It's
mhm.
different for me. It's a new experience for me. So it's always building. And guess what? Every salad is not going to always be the same.
Yes, indeed. True story.
right?
True
It's
story. True
not.
story.
You don't build the same salad every single time. And if you do, that's okay. That's okay.
Mm.
That's your prerogative. But most of us, if you like garden vegetables, don't build them the same way.
So that because what you're giving is the pleasure literacy. Like this is giving
Yes.
us more language to this. And I just love how you do it. Like your voice alone, you are made for this, okay?
Oh, thank
Because you
you.
offer comfort, you offer safety, you offer protection, you offer uh people the opportunity to not know. No
Yeah.
judgment, no shame, and no guilt. So this sexual versus sensual, if you could dive into that lane as well, because again, we're learning from you, from your expertise.
Absolutely. So sexual versus sensual, that can be that's twofold. So when you think of sexuality, we think of sometimes our gender, what we might be assigned with at birth, what we might identify with. We also think of what our actual bodily functions may hold and the organs that we may have, whether you have a penis or a penile organ or you have a vulva. And then what are also the reproductive. So that's a part of it, right? When we think of that health side. When we also think about sex, we might also think about what are things that we prefer. So that can also include things like your relationship, your orientation. Who am I attracted to? Attraction, right? What do
Mm,
I desire? What positions do I like? What can lead me to pleasure?
mm,
Now, on the opposite of that is sensuality. And sensuality, that comes to mind, senses, your senses, your sight, your smell, your taste. What are the things that can take and evoke arousal or evoke desire for me to want to now be in a sexual environment to do something that, again, is pleasurable? So, sensuality are the things that you bring into that space, whether they, again, sight, smell, taste, touch, all of those things. And you can do sensuality every day. You
mm,
don't have to do something sexual. For instance, I have a cup of fruit. I have some blueberries, raspberry in here, right, in my bowl. And this fruit is very healthy for me, right? We know that
mhm,
there's antioxidants in the blueberries. We know that they are healthy and nutritious for me. This is a good snack versus a candy bar, even though I
mhm.
enjoy a candy bar every now and again. But when I taste the blueberries, I can stop for a moment and enjoy the texture of it. That when it
Mm.
bursts, I have the liquid that comes from the fruit. I can take it and say, oh, wow, that was really good. And then when I try another one, maybe that one was a little sour. So I'm tasting something and I'm relishing in that. And it doesn't have to lead me into wanting to be in a sexual environment, but it may evoke those feelings to make me feel something more desirable in another
Ooh,
space.
are we still talking about blueberries?
Well, there's a raspberry in here too, so we can talk about the raspberry.
Love this. You are so good at this. I appreciate you so much. Where were you 50 years ago? Okay. Where were you? So, thank you for explaining it. Thank you for breaking it down. Thank you for making it easy to digest. No pun intended. Because you have an ability to share really difficult concepts and make it real simple. Because for us, when it comes to sex, it is a complex thing. Reality, it doesn't have to be, again, narrative, information, everything
Mhm.
else, but this is what we're taught and told. So now I want to go in the basement, your basement to be exact, if you're okay with going there.
Mhm.
This is a whole nother world. And in my opinion, you have an ability to help people transform from a viewpoint or perspective related to sex from one way. And then working with you, they can look at things very differently. Where did this come from for you to overcome the barriers, the stigmas, the stereotype, the culture, ancestry, generational, to not just be knowledgeable about it for yourself, because you could have kept it to you, but to decide
Mhm.
I'm going to do this for my career. I want to help other people with their sexual health and exploration. Where did this come from? What's your story around it?
Absolutely. Well, and I'm very comfortable. I'm in a place of healing and have definitely done my shadow work. So, but let me preface that before I make my next statements. But I've had my own traumatic experience around sexuality and what that looked like as a young woman. I experienced a sexual assault at a young age and really had to learn how to navigate that and never told anyone for years through that. But later, those things kept coming up in other areas of my life. So they resurfaced because I didn't have, it was again that silence. Remember, when we're silent, that also tells us a story. And so not sharing those experiences when they happened was something that, again, it started to mold me later. I
Mm,
didn't know those things were going to come kind of come back up later. And, you fast forward, you go through life, go to college, you start your family, you're working and you're in your career. And those things that really kind of sat with you and happened to you, they're still there.
mm,
They never go away. They never, in anything, they never go away. You just learn how to balance them, how to recognize them a lot sooner. So I'm in a space that I'm able to do that. As I've gone through my clinical training, again, those narratives were still sitting there. Those
mm,
stories were still sitting there, and they needed to come to the surface in order for me to say, hey, I'm a whole person. Because a lot of times we don't see ourselves as whole people,
mm,
especially when it comes to sexuality and how we view ourselves, how we view our bodies. For instance, when a birthing body changes, when you birth another human life, that body changes. And you may not have bounce back. That bounce back might
mm.
not be there. And it may take longer. And
Mhm,
so when you start to develop those narratives, again, we have to really start to look, is this a fact or is this a fiction? Because our mind
mm.
will tell us that these realities are really real and they're
Yeah.
not. And so
Mm,
having that perception, what did you see your mother or your parents do when
yes.
they were birthing, siblings or raising siblings at that time? Did they talk about it? Did they celebrate it? What
Mhm,
was the actual perception that you started to gain that again you didn't know was there? So for me, it came from a darker place, learning how to uncover that, how to be able to manage through those situations that I'm like, wow, I do have some lived experience and my story is just as important and vital to the work that I do because I do have clients that come to me and they have experiences that may be parallel. And so I have a different perspective because I have lived experience and clinical training. I don't have social media training,
Ooh, come
so
on.
gotta do,
Yes, come on.
gotta do. And it's no shade, no shade
True
to
story.
anyone that might be out there. But again, that goes to those myths and those misconceptions. And
Absolutely.
so I really like to call those with clients fairy tales, fallacies, and falsehoods.
Powerful. Powerful. Thank you for sharing your truth with us. Thank you for allowing
Oh,
us in your
yeah,
basement. And this speaks volumes to the work that you have done. The little girl, the healing, the helping you've done. And there's two big themes that I hear and we have to talk about because most
absolutely.
people don't overcome but most people don't overcome one. You've overcome both. And what I'm talking about specifically is related to the sexual experience, sexual trauma that you've experienced
Hmm.
and overcoming that, meaning you've had to do some work. So you were able to
Oh,
recognize
absolutely.
throughout your life, I can't avoid it. I have to deal with it. And you dealt with it. That's number one. You dealt with it. The number two is we know how deeply rooted the stigma and stereotype around therapy and counseling is for Black people specifically, but people of color as a whole, it's a barrier. So not only
Hmm.
did you overcome the barrier, you went to the next level of, you know what? I'm going to get a degree in this. I'm going to get licensed in this. How did you overcome those two things and not only overcome them, but decide I want to help other people on their journey? How? How, Sway?
Absolutely. Well, I absolutely decided that, I no longer want to believe or play into this incorrect belief that I have about myself that a negatively, can impact one's life and your health.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, this impacts your health, whether it's your mental health, emotional, your physical health, that stress. We're not made to be in chronic stress. Our bodies are not made for that. And so I decided that I was no longer going to freeze. You ever heard of that flight, fright or freeze. I no longer or fawn. I no
Mhm.
longer wanted to do that, but I wanted to fight. I was ready to
Mm.
push through. So really debunking that and seeking help. I implore people to really seek help. If you know that something's there, it's not quite right, not trying to deal with it on your own, but someone that can really help walk with you and guide you through that. So that way that you're able to take in accurate information, make informed decisions about yourself, and then also have understanding. That leads to healing. So really, I looked for that. And then I looked for people that looked like me doing the work. And when I didn't see it, I said,
Come
"Oh,
on.
I have to be in this space."
I'm here for it. I'm here for all this. Listen, you are a blessing, okay? You are a blessing in so many different ways because of who you are. Again, you don't have to do this. You didn't have to do it,
Yeah.
and you didn't have to do it in the way that you are doing it. And that's what I love the most, the healing space and who you are. And
Yes.
this speak volumes to how we connected so easily, so quickly because we're speaking the same language. And to me, that connection is due to the darkness that we had to overcome or we had to
Hmm.
outgrow. So I love it, and I'm very appreciative. And for anybody listening, this is your breadcrumb. Okay, this is your ripple. This is the thing that's all around us all the time, hidden in plain sight. Nikki just made it plain. Nikki just made it plain. And who better than someone who's experienced it and is now on the other side helping other people with it? So to me, you are her. All caps, no blue hat. Moving,
There we go. Love
moving
it.
to the next place in space, this journey of becoming her, because you're constantly building, moving,
Yes.
shifting, and changing. Tell us these parallels, who you were, who you are, who you're becoming. If you were to describe these three women, how would you describe them?
Oh, wow. Who I was a people pleaser. I
Ooh,
am a
ooh.
reformed people pleaser.
Welcome to the club, baby. We out here.
Yes. Who I am is a doer. I
Mm,
am a doer because I'm
hmm.
doing. I am
Yes.
doing.
Yes.
And where I'm going is someone who really knows herself.
Mm,
I know who I am. I know the younger. I talk to her and say, "Hey, okay, we got
yeah.
this."
Yeah.
She connects to the doer because again, she has foresight.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so really leaning into that and it's not always been easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not
Absolutely.
always something that's easy. You and I were definitely talking about that even before the show of like, hey, this transition, what does that transition really feel
Yes,
like?
indeed. Yes, indeed.
Um, but it's there and
Mm.
recognizing that and also saying that I don't have to push past it. Sometimes we're so quick in our culture to really push past things or to brave it out. And I say, I no longer wear the S on my chest and that my superhero cape don't go with my shoes or my
Ooh.
handbag. So I'm not wearing
Ooh.
it.
Ooh. Let's
It don't. It
go.
don't go with my outfit.
Yes.
So
That's
I
so
don't have
good.
to wear that any longer. And
Mm.
that is what keeps me moving forward, knowing who I am. So that is a lot, again, that takes the work. You have to do the work.
Oh my goodness. You've been working, okay? And please know I'm finna borrow this whole analogy you just came up with. The cape and the shoes
Yes.
and the hat. Yes,
Yeah,
let's
it
go.
don't go with my
It
outfit
don't
at
go with the
all.
outfit. And it's too heavy.
Thank you. I can't
It's too
do all
heavy.
this.
You are blessing me. Listen, I don't know about
Oh.
y'all. For y'all listening, I don't know about y'all, but I'm being blessed, whether you are or not. Okay. So I want to dive even more because now we're getting to know you. Now we're
Hmm.
getting to know you. What you do is one thing, who you are is a whole nother. So I'm curious, is there um a memory moment phrase, quote that you live by? That's the gift that keeps on giving for you.
Oh, wow. I live by several.
Okay, okay.
I live by several. I was given two ears and one mouth. Sometimes you have to
Hmm.
listen more and shut up.
Okay, make it
So I
simple.
like to, yes, keep it plain. Kiss. Keep it simple, sweetie. We're not gonna say
Yeah, I'm
something
with it.
that, yeah. But really and truly, what I live by is again, I humble myself. I humble myself. I don't. look for something outside of that. And so that's just the only phrase is I humble myself in all things, wherever that may be. Because again, sometimes we don't always show up as our best selves and recognizing, you know what, I have to humble myself,
Mm.
even when fault might be can be, presented or it's there. We know
Yeah.
that. But I
Yeah.
have agency, I have choice in that, and I can control Nikki.
Mm. Mm. So let's let's go deeper into this because it's so good. As
Hmm.
a black woman, with your maturity, your level of knowledge and intellect, again, there's so many different things you could do that you just don't. How
Hmm.
do women get on your level? Meaning to have that level of insight
Wow.
of there's only so much I can control and who I can control, which is myself. That's what I'm going to control because that's what I heard. How can women get to that level? And I'm speaking specifically for women because you can speak on the behalf of women. How do they get
Hmm.
to that level of removing the things that don't matter and honing on to the things that do, which is that person? Because that's what I just heard you say.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the things, and again, we've talked about it as a theme throughout, is the word intimacy. And I break this down every time when I'm discussing, whether it's in a webinar, a class, or one-on-one with a client, is intimacy is not with another person, but the word itself is into me, you see.
Woo! I
And
told y'all get your
so
notebook. Let's go. Hold on. You got to do that
into
one more time. One
me,
more time.
you see.
Ooh,
And
wow.
so, really connecting to how safe someone feels and how they see themselves and being seen in the world. Again, our culture can say all things. We can say that we are this, we're that. I can have all the degrees in the alphabet soup behind my name, but if Nikki doesn't see into Nikki, and see, hey, hey, I have some things that, they're still dark, but I have some
Hmm.
things that are still very light. And I take and I bring that joy out within myself with the help of I'm exploring this and I need some support. So I'm not making this up.
So
I need
powerful.
a little guidance, and that guidance can come from multiple directions. I say that you need a team.
Yeah.
Just as you have your doctor, your primary care doctor, your dentist, you got your barber, your hairdresser, you need a coach, a mentor,
Yeah. Yeah.
someone that has been through some things that can pour back into you and help you and sit with that. You have to sit with that.
You dropping gems, okay? You saving lives right now. And I want to go further because we in the basement. You just letting us
Oh, yeah.
roam around.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I hear another barrier, and you've overcome so many barriers to become her, which are still barriers for a lot of people listening. And one of the biggest
Absolutely.
barriers from my perspective, that a lot of women have is this barrier of I'm not allowed to ask for help. And you're talking
Hmm.
about this team that speaks volumes to your willingness to go against the grain and ask for help and be, serious about I can't do this by myself. I can't do it alone. I need help. How did you overcome that barrier and how can you share with the listeners, especially the women, of taking that cape off to be able to ask for help because that's how you've been able to become her.
Absolutely. Well, I can, for many women, having community, a sense of community or belongingness to a community, even if it's just one friend. When we have that as women, that sisterhood, that bonding, we can move mountains. We do move
Mm,
mountains many times. And sometimes that darkness can feel very heavy and weighted, that asking for help, your voice just it's there, but it's low. And
mm,
so, really, I say seek out what community looks like for you, whether it's in a faith community, a neighbor, a trusted friend, someone that you feel like, again, into me, you see, I need
mhm,
some support. Maybe they can go with you to, the therapy session and just be there, be present. Um, Maybe it could be a partner or just whomever that you feel like you can trust. And that changes. That changes. The person that goes in there with you, they're not there to do the work. That's for you.
yeah,
But they're
yeah,
there to lend support to you. And so that was something I utilized even in my own journey is, finding what community looks like.
Hmm.
And that's something that you build because sometimes we're in situations and where our family, our rooted community is not present. And
Mm.
so being able to build what community could look like that's safe and healthy for you. That's important as well, is that it's safe and it's healthy because we can build community around many things and they may not be safe and healthy for us. But if you're really wanting to say, hey, there's some things I need to deal with, I need to tackle, and it's coming out in communication because it comes out in your parenting.
Yes,
It's
indeed.
coming out at your job and your performance. It's coming out in other areas of your life where you feel like I'm not able to show up 100%. I see her, I'm looking at her, she looks good, smells
Hmm.
good,
Yes,
but
indeed.
it's
Come
just
on.
still sitting there. So I say, find just one person if you can that's
Mm.
trusted to help you in that journey. And
Whew.
it'll open the door.
Yes, 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 yes. Blessings upon blessings. So, with that said, I'm curious to know because you have a team, you have a village of people that's been
Yes.
pouring into you, and now you're pouring back. So, if you had or have a hero or a shero, who would that be?
Oh my gosh, I have several. I have several,
I
because you
receive
pour
it.
into me.
I
Yes.
receive it.
Yes, I have one. I have very many women folk that are in my community that I can just go and lay and sit at their feet.
Mm,
Her name is Asha Sims. She's a wonderful, wonderful clinician in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, but she is a true healer. She has a gift of healing. And so I'm able to go sit at Miss Sims' feet and just soak it all up, you know?
mm.
Sometimes it's not asking the questions, but listening. Remember, two ears, one mouth.
Yes, indeed.
So I talk less and listen more. Um, that's someone that I can definitely sit with. Tahaya Martin, she is a beautiful, beautiful Black sexologist, goddess that when I tell you this woman takes what literature can say and makes it so that you can just bite off the apple and not feel like, you're going to hell with it.
Mm.
You can just really, soak up that knowledge that someone else that pours into me.
Mm.
And then I have business coaches, not
Hmm.
just people that are in the same industry and clinically for me, but I have a business coach. I have a mentor that, accountability partners. I have a sister circle that
Mm.
is social and professional.
Yeah, yeah.
So that way, those are groups of people that, again, they all bring their wonderful talents and gifts and time, and they pour back into it. And, hopefully they're able to receive just as much as I know that I am out of it.
Whew, you are blessing us. Okay. And I'm going to say it because on this show, I love giving flowers. So right now, where you are in your magical space, there's roses being delivered. Okay. Delivered, just
Absolutely.
roses. I want to give you your flowers. Again, this is your norm, but this is not the norm, in my humble
Yeah,
opinion. This is your norm, but this is not the norm. So that's why you're a gift. That's why you're a blessing because you're giving permission to people to live differently. And that's what this is. And I love it. Just knowing the community, the culture, what you're creating, what you're curating comes from what you've experienced for yourself. So it speaks volumes to all the things that you are doing to help other people because you figured out how to help you. And it's a parallel universe that we live in. This is why the podcast exists. This is why these trainings and these master classes and experiences, retreats, that's why they exist, is because of the same thing. I know what works for me.
absolutely.
You can have it, do whatever you want to do with it, and create what works for you. And you've done that on a very high level. So I'm curious to know, and the listeners want to know, an interesting fact
Mhm.
about Nikki. What's something that most people don't know about Nikki?
Oh, something that most people don't know about Nikki is really very quiet.
What?
I may not show up
What?
that way, but I'm actually very much a quiet person. I love observing. I'm a people watch. I like watching people, and not in a creepy way, but I'm observant of people. I love learning, and I learn from my environments. And so I'm
Mm,
really quiet. Even just in settings where I do have to be more socially engaged, I'm
yeah.
very much quiet because I like to take in my environment. I'm learning from watching people, other people.
Wow, that's amazing. I would have never guessed. Never guessed.
Yes.
You see, you the life of the party to me. Like you are the life of the if Nikki there, it's finna go down. Like that's how I feel.
And I'm funny. I've been told that I was very funny, so
I can vouch for that. I
I
can
have a
test for
sense,
that.
I have a sense of humor.
All right, I'll take that. So on this portion, this segment, before we get out of here, I believe in life work. Homework, you take it home, you do it, you never
Hmm.
remember it. Life work, you take it home, you do it, you can pivot. And anytime anybody pivots, that means your life can change. So if you can offer some life work, if you can offer a challenge to the listeners, what would it be for them to pivot?
I would say that what are you staying quiet about in your intimacy? You're into me, you see. What are you staying quiet about and you want something slightly different? I would say if you can be able to speak on those things, and it's not material things, but what are those things that you really value the most that you're still quiet about?
Hmm. Whew. Powerful. Powerful. Where did this confidence come from? Where, like, Nikki, you know Nikki well, and you don't care about what other people think. You don't care about opinions, perspective. You don't care. Like, you hold on to this identity and ideology, and I love it. I'm here for it because I feel like, this just speaks volumes to us. Where did this level of confidence come from that you can speak this clearly and this confidently about what you know, about what you think, about what you believe? Because a lot of people may have it internally, but they don't let it out.
Oh
Where did
yeah.
this come from?
I think for three areas.
Okay.
One, I've always been that person. So that's one. I was always the kid that ran beside the bus. I didn't want to get on the bus of life. I'm gonna do it my way. Was a rebel at heart. I was a quiet rebel at heart.
Mm,
So that's one. But on a more serious note, I think just repetition and practice. I am an educator, formally trained, and I've taught in classrooms. I'm still currently teaching, writing curriculum, things of that nature. So I think practice really definitely helps. That when you practice doing something, you practice your craft, you practice your art, you're able to speak on it confidently and effectively. So you're able again to observe and know what your audience is looking for, whomever you're speaking to about. And so for me, that's something that's a constant growth. I don't just have it. I
yeah.
still get nervous every time that I have to speak in front of people. And then when I'm there, because I've been doing this, because I've gone over my material that I'm speaking about in that moment, that builds that confidence muscle. It's a muscle. And if
Mm.
you don't continuously use it, you lose it.
Whew.
Just like your sex organs. Like, hey,
Ooh, come on.
I'm just saying.
You better
If you
use it,
don't
baby.
use them, you will lose them.
Listen.
But yeah, it's
Let,
a confidence muscle.
I love it. Let me translate what Nikki said. That thing ain't gonna be able to keep thanging if you ain't thanging that thing, okay?
That's right. That's right.
That thing be thanging. Okay, I'm done. I'm finna get out. I'm
I
finna get
love
out of
it.
here.
I love it.
So, Nikki, you
Yes,
have done and you are doing a lot. You're creating a whole atmosphere for people to come in and eat. This episode is just a breadcrumb to all the Panera that you are out here giving away. It's a bread factory. It's endless. So if people want to connect with you, want to get involved with product services, retreats, community, wellness, because you do a lot. How can people get connected? How can people plug in to what you have to offer?
absolutely. Well, the name of my organization is In My Synergy Sexual Wellness Education and Coaching. So you can go to In My Synergy, and Synergy is spelled with a C. So we'll make sure that your listeners have the links and all of that after the show. But inmysynergy.com, that way you can find out more about what's going on, our monthly webinars that we host every month, our new school that's coming about, so that way you can get more of the learning activity and you can also get the coaching and so forth there. So in my synergy, we're also on social media on Instagram and LinkedIn at in my synergy. And so we'll make sure they have all of the links so that they can stay tuned and stay in touch and they can pick up more breadcrumbs and hopefully they'll eat a slice.
Yes,
They won't
indeed.
just have a breadcrumb, but they'll have a slice.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I'm here for it. Y'all heard it here first. Okay. Y'all heard it first. In my humble opinion, you may want to connect now. Do not wait. Nikki is going up. Nikki is blowing up. And you have access now, but that's not forever. Okay. I'm telling you what I know, not what I heard. You have access now. So take advantage. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I want everybody to win. And anybody connected to me directly or indirectly is going to win because you have no choice. You either win or you learn. We don't lose anymore. And Nikki is out here winning. She got, rafters, she got trophies, confetti falling. Nikki is out here doing it, y'all. And she's doing it from the most organic, authentic, spiritual, uh, God, faith. Like it's good. It's good. And I'm not going to promote or put anybody in this space and place because I'm very protective about my people that
Mhm.
is not bringing that. So because Nikki is moving in this place and space, there's going to be more coming. There's going to be more opportunities. There's going to be more ways that she's going to elevate. And I'm telling you what I know, she's going to elevate. So get her now while she hot. Because when she's blazing, you won't have access. Okay. Let me give an example. You know anybody? I'm sorry. Do you or anybody have LeBron James' number? Probably not, which means you don't have access or Oprah number for that matter. Probably not because you don't have access. But if you do have access, that means I'm connected to a community, a culture, a collective of people who are doing amazing things. And Nikki is one of those individuals. I'm telling you what I know, not what I heard. So, with that said, any final thoughts, anything you want to give, any other things that is important to you that you want to share with the listeners because they are here and they are tuned in?
Absolutely. Have more pleasure in life.
Let's go. What do you mean by that? Break that down for us.
Have more pleasure, whatever that might look like for you, whether it's more joy, more happiness, just have more pleasure in all things. We're in a different time where, there's a lot that's going on around us and within communities as well. So that pleasure is yours to be had. It's your birthright. So have more of it.
Come on, y'all heard it here first. If it ain't pleasure, what is it about? What you doing? Okay. So this is your message. Blueberries and raspberries, they ready for y'all. They are ready. I just got hit in the head with some blueberries and some raspberries in the most sensual way possible because I'm learning as well. So thank you so much for being here. Again, I'm giving you your flowers. You are a
Oh,
amazing,
thank you so much. This has been a
really.
wonderful and enjoyable experience. Thank you so much for having.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, just on the behalf of Black women, this is really important to me because you are giving voice to truth. I say
Hmm.
that again. You are giving voice to truth because women may become mothers, they become wives, they become partners, they become heads of state, of seat. Like women do amazing things. And this conversation about sexual health and sex and trauma and pleasure, like this impacts women to me in more ways than it can for a man, in my humble opinion, because of the beauty, the anatomy of a woman and who you all are. So you mean the world to me because you are in a position to help so many women. And I say that because women, in my opinion, are the reason for healthy and successful men. That's my belief.
Absolutely.
I'm entitled to it. That's my belief. If it's not for you all, there is no us. There's no us, not at that level, because you all are able to give us what we can't give ourselves and vice versa. So thank you, Nikki, on everything I
Thank
love
you.
for just being you and choosing to share you with anybody who wants to hear.
Thank you so much.
Woo! This has been another episode of Three Parallels Podcast with your host, the brother Dr. Jason Branch, where we rediscover who we were, embrace who we are, make room for who we're trying to become. If that is you, you are in the right place at the right time. This is your community. This is your culture. This is your collective. And now you have a new member that you can add. Reach out to Nikki, inquire, become friends. I'm telling you, she might not mind being your friend. Now, that ain't for everybody, but if it's for you, she's gonna welcome you on in. But this is exclusive, you all, meaning everybody can't have access because you may not be at that level, which is okay. Once you get to that level, you will attract the people, places, and things that you're supposed to have. That's exactly what happened to me. And that experience less than a month ago led us right here. And you're listening right now. That is it. That is all. Good night.